This company was untouchable. Then everything changed. If you enjoy business stories like this, make sure to subscribe. Google was more than a company. It was a verb. It was the internet's front door. For over 2 decades, its dominance was absolute. It defined how an entire generation found information. It was the master of search. It was the king of digital advertising. It controlled the flow of traffic across the digital world. Its power felt permanent. A digital empire built on a simple, brilliant idea. Think about the scale. Billions of people. Trillions of searches. Every single day, humanity turned to that simple white page with its colorful logo. They asked it their deepest questions and their silliest curiosities. Find recipes, diagnose symptoms, settle dinner table debates. This constant stream of human intent became the most valuable resource on the planet. Google didn't just organize the world's information, it organized the world's attention. That attention was its currency. No one else could mint that currency. The system was a perfect, self-propelling machine. Users got free, instant access to a library of human knowledge. Publishers and creators got traffic. A flood of potential readers and customers sent to their digital doorsteps. In return, Google took a cut. Small, targeted ads next to search results. These ads were incredibly effective. They reached people at the exact moment they were looking. Built on clicks and traffic, this model generated staggering profits. This wasn't just a business, it was an ecosystem. Entire industries grew up in its shadow, all optimized to rank high on Google. Search engine optimization, SEO. A dark art, practiced by marketers worldwide. Getting to the first page was the difference between success and failure for millions. The company's algorithms were like laws of physics for the digital economy. You didn't question them. You adapted to them. It owned the stadium. It wrote the rules. It sold all the tickets. The engine behind this empire was the click. Every component of Google's vast machinery was designed to produce and monetize this single action. When a user searched, they were presented with a list of blue links. Clicking a link transported them to another website. That journey was the critical event. For advertisers, each click was a potential customer delivered. For publishers, each click was a visitor, an eyeball on their content, a chance to generate revenue through their own ads. Google was the ultimate middleman, facilitating billions of these connections every hour. The beauty of the model was its symbiotic nature. More users meant more data, which made the search results better. Better results attracted even more users. This created a virtuous cycle that solidified Google's dominance. At the same time, more users meant more opportunities to show ads. More ads attracted more advertisers. They competed for placement, driving up the price Google could charge. The money poured in. It funded everything: Gmail, Maps, Android, YouTube, moonshot projects. This financial engine was so powerful it seemed indestructible. Competitors tried and failed to build a better search engine. Microsoft spent billions with Bing, but it barely made a dent. Others came and went, unable to break the gravitational pull of Google's network effect. The company's position felt less like a market lead and more like a fundamental utility, as essential and ubiquitous as electricity or water. For years, the only real threat to Google seemed to be Google itself, the risk of antitrust regulation, or a catastrophic internal misstep. No one saw the external threat coming. But beneath the surface, the foundation had a single point of failure. The entire economic structure depended on the user leaving Google to visit another site. The click was the bridge between the question and the monetized answer. The blue links were not just suggestions. They were the conduits for the cash. If users could get their answers without ever leaving the search results page, the entire engine would sputter. The perfect self-sustaining loop would break, and that is exactly what happened. Then came the change. It wasn't a new search engine. It wasn't a rival company with a bigger index. It was a fundamentally new technology, generative artificial intelligence. For years, AI was the stuff of academic papers and science fiction. It was slow, clunky, and impractical. But then, it got very good, very fast. New models, trained on the vast expanse of the internet, learned to understand and generate human-like language. They could do more than just find information. They could synthesize it. Suddenly, you could have a conversation with a machine. You could ask it a complex question, and it wouldn't just give you a list of links to read. It would read them for you. It would understand the content, extract the key facts, formulate a direct, coherent answer in plain English. This was a paradigm shift. Search was about finding documents. AI was about providing answers. It was the difference between being handed a library card and having a personal librarian who reads the books for you and gives you a summary. This shift in user behavior created a new and terrifying reality for Google: the clickless void. The company's multi-hundred-billion-dollar advertising machine was predicated on sending users somewhere else. AI kept them right where they were. If an AI can give you the best recipe for lasagna, the population of France, a summary of last night's game, why would you click a link? Why would you visit a food blog, an encyclopedia page, a sports news site? You wouldn't. You would get your answer and move on. Every search that ends without a click is a lost opportunity for revenue. It's a lost ad impression for Google. It's a lost visitor for a publisher. Multiply that by billions of searches a day, and you have an existential crisis. The ad-supported web, which funds everything from major news organizations, independent bloggers, relies on that flow of traffic. AI was building a dam, blocking the river of clicks and hoarding the water of attention for itself. This wasn't a small leak. It was a fundamental rerouting of the internet's most valuable resource. Consider a simple example. In the old model, they search on Google. They see an ad from a hardware store. They see a link to a DIY blog. They might click the ad, generating revenue for Google. They might click the blog post, where the publisher earns money from display ads. Now the user asks an AI. The AI, having scraped that same blog post, provides a step-by-step guide. The user gets their answer. No click, no ad impression, no revenue for the publisher. The value exchange is broken. The turning point. The turning point was not a single event, but a rapid acceleration. It happened in the span of months, not years. The launch of powerful public-facing AI tools in late 2022 and early 2023 triggered a panic inside Google. The threat was no longer theoretical. It was real. It was here. It was growing at an unprecedented rate. The company declared a code red. All hands were on deck. Projects were canceled. Teams were refocused. The race was on to build and deploy generative AI across all of Google's products. This shift created a massive culture shock within the company. For 20 years, the core mission was to perfect search and maximize clicks. Engineers, product managers, executives. Now they were being told to build a product that actively discouraged clicks. Internal incentive structures, performance reviews, corporate DNA. This created confusion, tension, and a sense of crisis in the halls of the Googleplex. Do you think this was a mistake or inevitable? Let me know in the comments. The consequences rippled outward immediately. Publishers began reporting significant drops in referral traffic from Google. News outlets, content creators. They had spent years playing by Google's rules, only to have the game changed on them without warning. They were providing the raw material, the high-quality content that trained the AI models. They were receiving nothing in return. The symbiotic relationship had become parasitic. Competition intensified at a blistering pace. Microsoft roared back to life, integrating OpenAI's technology directly into Bing search. Suddenly, Bing was relevant again. It was seen as innovative, while Google appeared to be playing catch-up. Startups armed with venture capital and a singular focus on AI began chipping away at the edges of Google's empire. The moat that had protected Google for so long, its data and distribution, was no longer impenetrable. The king was vulnerable. Faced with an existential threat, the giant awakened. Google marshaled its immense resources to fight back. It poured billions into its own AI research labs like DeepMind. It rushed to integrate its own large language models, LaMDA, Gemini, into its core search product. The familiar list of 10 blue links, replaced by AI overviews, rich conversational answers generated on the fly. Google tried to beat the AI upstarts at their own game, leveraging scale and data. Product changes were frantic and far-reaching, not just adding a chatbot, reinventing its flagship product in real time, in full public view. This led to stumbles. New AI features sometimes produced bizarre or incorrect answers, leading to public ridicule. The company, once known for polished, reliable products, now seemed to be moving fast and breaking things. A necessary, if uncomfortable, transformation for a company used to methodical perfection. Beyond the product, Google confronted the business model dilemma head-on. How do you make money in a clickless world? The company experimented with new ad formats inside AI answers. A sponsored link within a generated paragraph. A branded mention in a travel itinerary. These ideas were fraught with peril. They risked making AI answers feel less trustworthy. They required convincing advertisers to pay for a new, unproven placement. Meanwhile, old, reliable search ads were losing potency. The internal reorganization was massive. Teams were shuffled. Leaders were replaced. Priorities were redrawn. 20% time was curtailed. The focus became singular. AI, AI, AI. It was a wartime effort. The goal, not just survive, but define the next era of information access and find a way to monetize it. Could a company of Google's size pivot quickly enough to outmaneuver smaller, more agile competitors? The shockwaves from Google's crisis spread across the entire digital economy, setting off a domino effect. The first to fall were the publishers. News organizations, niche blogs, independent creators who had built their businesses on Google's river of traffic saw their lifeblood dry up. Ad revenues plummeted. Layoffs swept through the media industry. Many outlets that had relied on search traffic to support their journalism were forced to erect paywalls, pivot to newsletters, or simply shut down. The open ad-supported web began to shrink. Next to feel the impact were the countless businesses in the SEO industry. If the answer is in the AI box, what is the value of being the #1 blue link? They had to scramble to learn new skills, focusing on how to get their clients' information into the AI models, a far more opaque and challenging task. The rules of the game were being rewritten on the fly. The pressure mounted on Google's parent company, Alphabet. For years, investors had prized the company for its astronomical profit margins, driven by the search advertising cash cow. As the core model came under threat, so did those margins. Wall Street grew anxious. Every earnings call became a referendum on the company's AI strategy. The stock became volatile, reacting to every new AI announcement from Google or its competitors. This crisis also triggered a regulatory firestorm. Governments and watchdog groups around the world began to ask hard questions. Is it fair for AI models to scrape and use publisher content without compensation? How can we ensure AI answers are unbiased and not manipulated for commercial gain? The issues of copyright, data privacy, and anti-competitive behavior became central to the debate over AI's future, adding another layer of complexity and risk to Google's already monumental challenge. The battle for the future of information is now underway, with several possible outcomes. In one scenario, Google successfully navigates the transition. It invents new, native advertising formats that are effective for marketers and accepted by users. It becomes an answer engine and preserves its financial empire. In a second, more fragmented future, Google loses its central role. Its dominance fades into a shared market. A third possibility is a future shaped by regulation. Such regulations could slow down the death of the click and force a hybrid model to emerge. For everyone else, creators, businesses, and users, the strategy must be to adapt. For creators, the era of relying solely on search traffic is over. They must build direct relationships with their audience through email lists, subscriptions, and communities. For businesses, the focus must shift from chasing clicks to building a brand that people seek out directly. For users, the convenience of AI answers comes with a new responsibility. To question the source, seek out diverse perspectives, and be wary of the biases embedded in a single, synthesized truth. So, we are left at a crossroads. The company that defined the internet for a generation has had its foundational model shattered. The perfect engine of search, clicks, ads that propelled Google to unimaginable heights is now sputtering, threatened by a technology that delivers answers without the journey. Google's story is far from over. A giant with its resources, talent, sheer scale cannot be counted out. It has the power to reinvent itself. But the wound is deep and the clock is ticking. It is trying to repair the ship while sailing through a hurricane. The changes are more than just cosmetic. They represent a fundamental rethinking of how the company creates value and how it captures it. The challenge is not just technological. It is commercial, cultural, and philosophical. It is a fight for the company's soul. If you want more stories like this, like the video and subscribe. The final outcome matters far beyond the walls of the Googleplex. It will determine the economic viability of journalism and content creation on the web. It will shape how businesses reach customers, and it will define how the next generation discovers knowledge and perceives truth.